So, with churches starting up again, we get to reflect on the fact that we can't come to divine service in our sweatpants no more, and we sort of have to spend a little bit of time dwelling on piety. Um, the things that we do to remind ourselves that something important is going on here matter, because it's really easy to get in the habit of going to church in your sweatpants and only half paying attention, because also you're drinking coffee in the middle of church, and also your kids are yelling because, as it turns out, they have a hard time concentrating on a 45-minute service done entirely through a Chrome browser. But when we come back to church, we're given the freedom to express piety. The things that you do that point to the fact that something important is going on here. The clothes that you wear to church don't matter at all, because Christ is risen from the dead when you wear your very best, and Christ was risen from the dead when you wore sweatpants. The sign of the cross doesn't matter at all, because it's a reminder of the baptism that does matter. And if you make it, you're baptized, and if you don't make it, you're baptized. The artwork that we hang, the sitting and the standing, the actually singing in church instead of just sort of watching a handful of people on a screen sing. These things point to a larger truth. And this is why they're helpful. This is why they're good. If you don't want to do them, don't do them. But understand that they're a gift. Understand what it is, especially now as we maybe developed some bad habits in the last couple of months, that we get to start to recognize that there's actually something significant going on here. When we talk about piety as Christians, the things that we do, the things that we say, the way that we do them, it's to point to a larger truth. Everything that we do says something to people. Body language says something to people. What's left unsaid says something to people. The singing, the signs, the art, all of it, they're to point to Jesus. And so one of the things that's been missing in a lot of our lives, honestly, that adds to kind of that slothful feeling, that sort of blah feeling that happens, is a lack of the piety. Because, well, old Adam would much rather focus on sin than the forgiveness of it. And old Adam would much rather focus on the devil's temptation to look to the world than Christ's promise to overcome it. As we start to ease our way back into church, as we do so according to our consciences, we ease back into our piety in the very same way. If you're at risk, you should stay home for a while still. And if the piety makes you uncomfortable, don't do it. But understand the motivation behind all of it. It's to point you to a larger truth, that at home as a shut-in or gathering together, faith in Jesus still goes to Jesus. And the things that we would do to remind ourselves that Jesus is actually here in a meaningful way, they're blessings. Not because you have to do them, but because we recognize maybe just a little bit over the last couple months how a lack of them make the whole thing seem pretty unimportant and hard to follow. If you haven't started church just yet, maybe start up the piety at home. Maybe actually stand and sit when you're supposed to, sing when you're supposed to, maybe even just dress up for church to sit on your couch. All of these things don't have to be done, but they might just point to the fact that there's still something going on, even if you can't quite yet gather to see it in person. This is all that the piety's ever been. This is just maybe a reminder of what it's like to have it and what it's like to set it aside, and then a joyful thing to pick it back up again. I'd suggest you try it.